About, my God, about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I was walking my dog, Butch, who was a Doberman, beautiful dog, along the beach in Ras Tanura in Saudi Arabia. My dad was working out there, so the whole family moved there. It's when I was at boarding school in Scotland, so I was out in Ras Tanura, and I had miles of white sanded beaches. Saudi Arabia, they're opening up for tourism now, but back then it was just the workers' kids and the workers. And Butch was a well-behaved dog, except when he saw something like another dog or a cat or an animal he wanted to chase or something, and I could see in his canine processing unit the kind of calculation he makes. He goes, "Yep, I'm going to get punished for this by the master, but it'll be worth it." And you'll go and fight the dog, chase the cat. And on this occasion, we're on the beach, and there's a lot of ghost crabs. You've probably seen them on the David Attenborough documentary. The ghost crabs, very pale, with very big eyes like that. Those are the eyes, and it's got like little spikes on the eyes, on the eye stalks. And I used to have great fun as a kid, as a teenager, digging down, and it would curve. It was like to go down into the ghost crab layer, and then I'd get the crab out. This is when I was without the dog, but when I'm walking the dog, I didn't have time, because Butch took a lot of attention. The reason I raise him, he would see a crab maybe 50 meters up in front, and he'd chase it. And then that crab would shoot down his hole. But then, as I'm going, "Butch, come back, you bad dog, come back, come back," he'd see another crab, another ghost crab, another 50 meters ahead, 30 meters ahead. He'd run after that one. That crab would go down his burrow. And then by then, he'd see another 3 or 4 crabs 100 meters away. Next thing you know, my dog was 1.5 miles down the beach, sprinting like a greyhound. And you know the greyhounds at the races, Walthamstow races, I went there once, never got to see it working, but they have a little rabbit on a string or on a robot. And for Butch, never-ending ghost crabs, and he ran until the beach ran out, and it was the jetty, you know, the end of the beach with the big rocks. Then he turned around and came back. By then, the ghost crabs had already appeared again. He'd come sprinting back, have to try and catch him. The government is Butch. The government is a badly behaved dog. And just when we're going to escape the clown world, pharmaceutical, medical tyranny that we're all in, the government sees another variant in the distance. We can't have Freedom Day. Got to lock down again. I was in Market Street in Manchester this morning filming another one of these big NHS red alerts. You are in a dangerous variant area. And because I think the Mancunians would probably kick off and burn the mayor's house down. They'd probably attack police stations. No Tory would ever be able to visit this city again without getting hounded out and chased. So that's why they've not done an official lockdown, but you got the big signs everywhere. Indian variant. Remember when you weren't allowed to call it the Chinese coffin sneeze because that was bad against the Chinese? But no problem with the South African variant or the Indian variant. It's funny, you learn who's powerful. You learn that the ka-ching comes from the Changs. That came out badly. That's such a boomer joke. The Kerchings from the Chang. Well, anyway, Mr. Chang over in China, he advertises a lot. He funds universities. He pays for companies. He does lots of business. So this is one of the corruptions of business. The corruptions of doing business with people who are, let's say, ideologically very fucked up and put people in concentration camps. The price you pay for doing business with them, because they literally run a slave army. Literally. Slave army. In the camps, outside the camps. Remember, I've got the Wuhan. I've got the Wuhan. Remember growing up, even now, not so much nowadays. Now it's like made in Vietnam, made in Indonesia, made in the Philippines, made in anywhere except China. But remember growing up, everything made in China. And it was like a tagline for bad quality. But I'll tell you what the real bad quality is, how the government was treating working class people in America, Britain, Germany, Portugal, Spain, France, everywhere else. They were saying, okay, so in the 20th century, you elevated yourself out of peasantry into working class. You got a house, You got 5 kids, you got a car, you got a work van. But what we're going to do now, because it's cheaper, Chinese will do it cheaper. So fuck you. Get back on benefits. Go be the underclass again. Let's destroy the working classes. So they gave everything to China. Whew, I gotta calm down on my tangents. So so let's try and unravel this. You're not allowed to call it the Chinese variant, but the Indian variant. The government's like Butch chasing ghost crabs along the Rastanura beach. So just when the government is going to say, yeah, look, take your mask off, Freedom Day, you've all been vaccinated. You've all been vaccinated. So let's go back to work, forget all this nightmare ever happened. We've hurt the kids enough. Kids forced to stay at home for a year. Oh, I put this on my social media. I was in the play area yesterday, Victoria Park, here in Swinton. And Isaac was in a baby swing, and he loves it. He's like, yeah, faster, faster. And there's a little girl begging me, say, oh, I want to go in the swing. She's about Isaac's age, 2. Swing, swing, swing. So I was like, oh, before the pandemic, I just grabbed the child, put them in there, grab the child. I'm punching kids, kicking kids, strangling them. But now with the pandemic, you're not allowed to even fart near someone, because then you're a disease spreader. So I turned to her, what I assume was a granny, and I said, oh, your granddaughter, can I put her in the swing? She goes, no, 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 no. So she comes, grabs her granddaughter, takes her away, and she's shaking her head at me. And I felt like, let me just really get this accurate. She treated me like Gary Glitter with leprosy. That was it. It was like, oh. And one of my friends, a good Greek guy, Greek Cypriot, he commented. He said, Charlie, don't give these people the chance to have their control-freak, OCD, negative, nasty, self-hating out. He says, Charlie, next thing, just grab the kid, put it in the swing. If they want to argue with you, say, fine, sorry, perfectly reasonable. But I worry. There's so many. Well, I'll tell you one of my first ever experiences here in Swinton. When I moved here, I fell in love, came here to start a family, have a family. I was filming at the town hall in Swinton here. And there was some like Army Open Day, kids trying out helmets and guns with no bullets. And I thought that was quite interesting. Look what they do to the kids. And then one of the mothers, like, she started a hysteria, like a Salem witch hunt. That guy over there with the funny Scottish, Canadian, American, weird international accent. And she phoned the police on me. The cops turn up. And there's like all these fucking lowlives. Sorry, when they're my enemies, they're lowlives. When they're my friends, they're normal, everyday, salt of the earth, decent people. But what, the type, when, the before Karens were Karens, we're talking about 10 years ago. People who are powerless. It was Albert. Was it Albert? Batman's speech. That's when the fever starts. The feelings of powerlessness and having no control. That's when men become cruel. Anyway, the police basically, put me up against the wall. Detained me, officially detained me. Went through my videos, deleted my videos, and told me to leave. I write a big complaint to Greater Manchester Police. I did get an apology. I then tried to sue in the small claims court for the value of the footage, because they actually admitted in the letter that they were wrong to delete the footage. They're not Judge Dredd. They can't just turn up and go, yep, we don't need courts or legal. We don't need a magistrate or a judge. Delete that footage. It's like, no, copper. Where am I going with all this? Part of me wants to believe that the government is just a bunch of incompetent, hopeless idiots, as a light bulb head, evil eyebrow Dominic Cummings said. Who can trust that man again? I mean, I'm sorry. Even if you fall out with someone, even if you become enemies, there is nothing more scummy than releasing private messages that people sent to you in private and making them public. No one is ever going to be your friend or write to you personal stuff ever again if you do that. Funnily enough, 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, no, 10, 11 years ago, there was a crazed man called David Icke, who, many of you might not know this. I was a big-ass conspiracy theorist. I was like, you know, friends with Alex Jones, David Icke. Not friends, acquaintances. And I said, well, hold on a second. It might have actually been the Muzzies. You know, it might have been Al-Qaeda. And then basically, big problems online. Big problems. So I wrote to David Icke, saying, David, we've hung out. You know, we've done videos together. Can you please help me out? Help me out, as in, tell your fucking crazed, reptilian-minded psychos to stop sending me those threats and anger and hatred and, you know. I was, how old was I at the time? 30. Old enough to know better, but I'm 40 now. 30 feels like a baby. So what did David Icke, I'm sure it's all still there. David Icke, being the classy guy, publicly released the personal messages I wrote him on my website. And I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, you are not a decent person. Does he actually believe that COVID was about 5G and really fast internet? Whew. 12 minutes in, and I've not even made my point. But some of you like the let's hang out with Charlie and talk. Most of you don't. You prefer the dramatic videos, and that's fair enough. But I pay a psychic price having conflict every day. You do. You pay a psychic price. You know, you get your bloody cortisol. You get your elevated blood pressure. I don't know what kind of blockages my arteries are suffering from the cortisol and the stress. But I saw something online, and I instantly check my sources. Very important, guys. If you're going to share information, check your sources. I'm not 100% good on this, but I try and be. I try and check my sources. There's a New York Post from an hour ago. Fans who have taken the AstraZeneca vaccine will not be allowed into the Bruce Springsteen show in New York. So it begins. They're discriminating against the different COVID vaccines now. Put 3 masks on. Oh, stay at home. You've had eight vaccines. Stay at home. Oh my God. I was like, surely that can't be right. Surely not. These people that lined up to get their vaccines, and they're not even allowed to have freedom now. Another thing I saw as well, you know my problems at the Apple store. I pretended I wanted to buy an iPhone. They said you're exempt. You've got to wear the Iron Man plastic visor. I said, no, it's all right. I went to rent a car. I'm not going to name the rental company because I'm a regular customer and you don't shit where you eat. But I rented the car, and last time there was issues, you know, I was like, I'm exempt. They were kicking off. They're like, where's your card? I said, no, you can't ask someone to just tell their personal medical information. That's against GDPR, against data protection. It's also very rude. I've got health problems. I can't talk to you about it. I'm exempt. He's like, where's your card? I said, well, have a look on the government law website, Coronavirus Act. Tell me where it says I must show you my papers. And they go, oh, RC. So today, do you know what they did? This company, I'm not going to name them, as I say, a major multinational car rental company, turn up today, ready with my exemption card. I said, look, it was the same guy that served me. He said, Mr. Veitch. And then his Karen manager, I can't even name him because they said, sir, to the colleague, if he's exempt, you have to take your laptop outside into the car park and process him there. Do you know what I did, guys? Not proud of it. I said to the Karen, I said to her, no, just give me a mask. I'll suffer for 2 minutes. I don't want to go outside and be treated like a second-class person. I'll suffer from my lungs for 2 minutes. And I thought she was going to go, oh, no. But do you know what she did? She goes, yeah. Yeah, she goes, okay, yeah, take it. I should have said to her, oh, just put the yellow star and put me in the camp. So it begins. The discrimination is beginning. This is... Whoa, shit! Is that still going? I think so. Oh, shit. Right, okay. The discrimination is beginning. And I'm glad that me and my family, my kids, are staying out of it. When they're telling you you're taking the wrong vaccine, you're not allowed into the stadiums, you're not allowed in the nightclubs, you're not allowed at Bruce... Born in the USA. Courtney Cox in that video, isn't it? Courtney Cox, or am I getting mixed up a bit? So, coming back to Butch chasing the ghost crabs. Unfortunately, with this thing, virus, it's pretty much generally agreed now because, and I'll tell you why they didn't allow, the mainstream media and the government didn't want you thinking it was a laboratory creation, because they were so busy making everyone terrified, they figured there might be mass panic. And this is another thing I mentioned in the video yesterday. The people that love you, who care about you, who at least respect you, they'll tell you the truth. Come hell or high water, you tell the people you respect the truth. But you treat sheep, you treat farm animals as a herd that needs to be maintained, needs to be organized, processed. And so the government said, well, okay, they're all individuals. This is a Christian country. We believe in the sanctity of the soul. But in times of war, it's a war. You remember Boris Johnson? Everything was a war. The cavalry, the bloody this again. War on COVID. They lied. They treated you like sheep. They terrified everyone. There's still people with bloody PTSD that can't handle being outdoors because they think the virus is going to get them. It's a lab creation. It's been studied by people who aren't bought, who don't have to worry that their journal's going to lose all the Chinese advertising. They're not TV channels of the UK government that's enmeshed with Chinese business. They get their ka-ching from the Chang. And so, but the scientists who don't have to worry about Chinese influence or China withdrawing the money. Oh! You say truthful things about our fascism, communism, evil, organ harvesting, concentration camps, destruction of Hong Kong freedom? Fuck you! We take away our money now. That is corruption. I'm sorry. If you keep putting a dollar sign in front of it, in front of everything as the most important thing, you are corrupt, you are broken, you are literally a machine. You're just an NPC, a non-playable character. If you think money's more important than morals, if you think money's more important than your dignity, if you think money's more important than the truth, lab creation, there's going to be a new variant every 2 months. Butch is going to see the next ghost crab. In my opinion, they've cried wolf too many times. I think the last 3 potential freedom days, you know, that eat out to help out last year. Remember summertime? I could go to any restaurant, half price food. I thought it was over then. I thought it was over, you know, when everyone was vaccinated after Christmas. But it doesn't look like it's ever going to be over. This is if you reread the highlights of Brave New World, they're doing it like this with the pandemic and the response to it. And most people are too stupid or too scared or both to see. But I'll carry on until I get banned. I can feel it. I feel the storm. My son plays a game on the Xbox called Hello Neighbor. And it's really nice animation. Really cool concept. It's like the neighbor's just like mustachioed guy. But whenever you're near the neighbor, you hear this rumbling. The screen goes a bit... I feel that now from YouTube. I think I'm going to get banned soon. I really do. But there's not going to be any Freedom Day. There's going to be a new variant. This is this thing, even though the Chinese cough and sneeze isn't going to affect most people. For most people, it's not as bad as the flu. For the very elderly, for the very obese, for the very ill, it's worse than the flu. Now, what I've just said is fact. It's fact. because it was made artificially. And here's the thing, this is like, I've said this before about this very same thing. There was the Day Today, a Brass Eye sketch, Chris Morris, Channel 4 I think it was, or was it BBC, I can't remember. They come up with an idea to use a Soyuz space capsule, that they send people to the ISS, this International Space. They're going to use those as prisons for the worst pedophiles on Earth. And they're all talking about the launch. And they launch this pedophile, and they're watching the launch. The rocket goes into space, and the narrator, Chris Morris, on the Day Today, and then it goes back in Houston, and it like cuts to all these stock images of people poring over the NASA computers. They didn't realize what they actually did. They put an 8-year-old boy in there with the world's most dangerous pedophile and fired them into space. And the line they used was, "This was the very, very last thing we wanted to happen." And it did. So the reason I raised this, Dr. Zhen Li, I bothered to look up Dr. Zhen Li in Wuhan Institute of Virology. She led a team that collected thousands of bats from 1,000 miles away, brought them. They sampled and isolated a lot of new bat viruses, of which the one that we're dealing with now was one. Now, there's usually a host animal that goes bat, frog, bat, pangolin, bat, camel, bat, turtle, then human. There's usually a crossover where there's never been that because it was made in the lab. Now so the very last thing, so basically the Chinese and their hubris, so the Chinese Communist Party, not the great Chinese people. The great Chinese people deserve liberty, freedom, and all the stuff that we enjoy. They should have that. Why should a Chinese guy get thrown in prison for criticizing the police after a couple of beers one night, which is what happens? These scientists, they increased its virulence, its pathogenicity, which means it's so much more contagious. And they basically got, it was like, that, what was his name? That guy, Pimp My Ride. It was Exhibit or something. What was his name? Hey, virus. We heard you like infecting humans. So what we did, we gave you 1,000 artificial spike proteins that are special just for humans. So they increased its pathogenicity. And the reason they gave us, no, it's not bioweapons. We promise it's not bioweapons research. We have to increase its deadliness so that we can study it better in case it ever does become a pandemic. So it's like, it's like having a nuclear stockpile to have a kind of deterrent against your enemy, and you end up detonating your nuclear stockpile in central London. It's the very last thing we wanted to do, was send that space shuttle up with that pedophile and that 8-year-old boy. Very last thing we wanted when we were making a bat virus 1,000 times more virulent to humans. The last thing we wanted was for it to be released into humans. Or was it? Let's end this video in a positive note. There's so many things in this life we'll never know because we're not there. We're not allowed to have a look at all these redacted documents. Everything's classified. The British government, world famous for doing what's called a D-notice on the press. And the press, being little obedient little pussy boys, obey it. A D-notice is basically a story that a journalist has investigated. The government says, oh, national security, or embarrassing or not conducive to the public good. And the press, the mainstream press, say, okay, sorry, sir. You know what? It's a great line I want to end on as well. In storytelling, journalism, reporting, anything like what I do, you need to uncover shit that someone somewhere wants to keep hidden. Everything else is advertising. So again, the positive note I was actually going to end on is there's so many things we don't know, but you don't need to know them. Judge people by their actions. We all know in our hearts, in our minds, we all know how people who respect and love each other, people who have this, a mutual golden rule, treat others how you'd like to be treated. Healthy, normal, everyday people tell the truth to each other because A, it's easier. You don't have to remember your lies. B, you develop a reputation as someone who's trustworthy, honest, You know, it's a great, you know, people know where they stand with you. That's a good reputation to have. And C, you tell the truth because it's the right thing to do. It's as simple as that. So with our governments, with our Boris Johnsons, with our Matt Hancocks, with the leaders of business, with the leaders of the press, with the scientists at the Scientific Advisory Group of Experts that admitted that they were using fear and tyranny to terrify people into staying at home, we don't even need to know what the ulterior motives are. But I just want to say now that as we may be entering some sort of World War III in a way, it is. It's the ultimate war on human freedoms, the ultimate transfer of wealth from the mummy and daddy businesses to the oligarchs. And they're trying to sheep dip everyone. And what's going to happen with a few hundred people like me, a few 100 million people like me that say no? You don't need to know their ulterior motives. Just know that if they're not speaking the languages of truth, of the heart, of freedom, of beauty, of love, then you can disregard the lies that they are saying. It's as simple as that. It is. I had another thing, but I've forgotten it now. 26 minutes is enough. Charlie Veitch. Honk, honk. Clown World. Today's the 18th of June, I believe. And I do this every Friday. Friday!